This is the Getting Started video for homework number 8, Structure Stress. Now, I should add as a note to this, I have students that come back to me 5-10 years after they've taken this class, and they still remember this homework and the next one. This is an extremely challenging homework. It's probably one of the most challenging you will have in your college career. Brace yourself, you're in for a long haul. This is going to take consistent effort over many days. Probably you're gonna have to work on it every day for probably about 2 weeks before you solve it. So make sure that you plan and budget your time accordingly. First thing you want to do is download the homework and read through it. So what you're going to do is you're going to write a program that will read in a list of addresses up to 100 maximum. Now the program should read records from a file until an EOF, that's end file, is found. The program must read one character at a time from the file using the function fgetc. So for example, CHR letter equals fgetc and then p file input. P means it's a pointer, file means it's a file data type, and input means that's the input file. Now, I'm not going to give you any partial addresses, so you will get each record that you read in will be a complete record. The format of the addresses is record ID, comma, full name, comma, street, comma, city, comma, state, comma, zip. So your first step is you just want to read those in. I'll walk you through a little bit of that in the Getting Started video. Second step is you're going to store the addresses in an array of structures. Now you're going to use the type def below to define that array of structures. You will have to parse the input lines to separate the fields. Now parse means you basically pick through it, you break up the data. So you're going to have to look for commas, and then you're going to have to split the record up into the individual fields. You will also have to separate full name into first, middle, and last name. Also, you must trim all leading and trailing white space for each field. If you don't do that, that's worth a lot of points. You may not be able to get an A if you don't do that. So here's the following type def structure. So here, let me go ahead and I actually want to indent that one tab. So we have UDT struct, and then we have record ID, first name, middle name, last, street, city, state, zip, and UDT address type. So that is our alias. You're going to call a subroutine from main and pass the array of structures as a parameter to that subroutine. In the subroutine, you're going to load all the addresses from the file that I give you into the array of structures. Then back in main, you're going to call a subroutine and pass it the array of structures, and in that subroutine you're going to print out all the addresses, and you need to make it look pretty, just like in the example that I gave for the structures video. Now, you don't print out blank addresses. I'm going to go ahead and bold that because a lot of people miss that. Do not print out blank addresses. So for example, customer 1, Luke Skywalker, and then so on. Now there's some extra credit options for those of you who are bold and adventurous, but don't even attempt those until you're completely finished with homework, because this is a really hard homework. Now one of the first things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to open up the file input example code document that I post on Blackboard along with this assignment, and there's a whole bunch of code in there that shows you how to read from a file. Now this is a little advanced, so I'm literally allowing you to copy and paste it, come over here to Visual Studio and type it in. And now don't forget your comment blocks and other stuff at the top. This is just the bare bones that you need. We're going to start off, we've got a few crazy things going on. First off, make sure you include standard library. The reason for that is we need the file data type. Now notice in our prototype, what do we have? We have asterisk asterisk. You know what that means? That is a pointer to a pointer. Oh, wow. So in our main, we declare a pointer to a file data type. That's what's going to allow us to input data. And we are going to pass that to the open input file procedure that I've given to you, and notice we hard code the address for where that file is. Now notice we have to use \\\ for all the directories. Why? Because if we put in a single one, it's going to interpret that as a escape character, and it's going to think that's a tab. So it's going to look for C:\tab EMP, and it's definitely not going to find that file name. So anytime you have a directory, you're going to have to double up on the slashes. Now I highly recommend, or strongly recommend, that you put the address file that I give you in the C:\temp directory. If you don't have a C:\temp directory, make one, and that will allow you to read in the data with as little fuss and trouble as possible. Now we have to pass our pointer by reference, so we're passing a pointer to a pointer. So we come down here to input file, and we've got the file name that we want to open up, that's a character array, and then our pointer to pointer. We're going to call the built-in function fopen, which means file open, and we want to open it for read and binary, which if you want to find out what binary is, you can go read the help on that. Just trust that it works. Now if that returns a non-zero value, then it worked, and we're going to have a little result flag. We'll assign that a value of 1. So 1 is successful, anything else 0 is unsuccessful. And if it doesn't work, we print a little error message, and then we return that result flag. Now notice I have to dereference the pointer. So the first pointer gets dereferenced, so I'm talking about the second pointer. Oh, doesn't that make your head hurt? Now the reason I have to dereference it is because I'm changing it right here. It is on the left side. It's on the left side of an assignment operator. So that means I'm changing it. I have to dereference it. And next we return from that, and we check to see if the result flag is 1. If it is, what I'm doing is I'm going to read one line at a time and print that line until I get FEOF. What that means is file end of file. So while that is equal to 0, basically false, well it's not at the end, keep on looping. As soon as you get any non-zero value, it will stop looping, and then we need to close our file. That's what fclose means, and we're all done. So we read a whole line and then we print it. Now I've already put the file in C:\temp. Let's go ahead and actually look at the addresses in this file. So we can see there's about 20 some odd addresses, and by the way, you're not allowed to change this file. You are not allowed to change this file. I'll say that one more time. You are not allowed to change the file. So we look at this first guy. We got John Henry Blue. He lives at such and such an address. And there's a lot of little problems in here. Like we got Chad Vile. He's missing a middle name. He has a first and last name. That is going to cause troubles. And then we have all these extra blank spaces and stuff in there. Oh man, how did that happen? I wonder how that data got in there. So that is the file that I'll be reading in. So let me go ahead and slide that down. And then I'm going to go ahead and run the code, and I should get exactly what's in the file. So if we look at that and then we compare that with the file, and then we line that up a bit, it is lining up pretty well. John Henry Blue, California, Elf Street, excellent, excellent, excellent. So I can go ahead and close out that file, and I can close my results window, and I'm back to the code. Now it's thinking, oh my goodness, what's next? Well, we go back to the homework, and we grab our type def. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to come to the code, and I'm going to paste that in. And let me put my user-defined types. User-defined types, UDTs. Alright, so there we got that. And I need an array of those, so I'm going to have, what did I call that? That is address type. So I'm going to have an array of those A, UDT, we'll call it address list. And I said in the homework instructions that it would be size 100 maximum. So let's go ahead and make a constant for that. Now remember, you can't use constants when you are declaring the array, but you can use it everywhere else. So int array size equals 100. So that's the largest we'll have. And what's the first thing I need to do? Well, I need to initialize my address list. And I'll pass in the UDT address list there. The next thing I'm going to have to populate, if I can spell populate, the address list. And I'm going to pass in that whole thing right there. And finally, I'm going to print the address list as per the instructions. UDT address list. Now this code here is definitely for populating it. So let me move my pause back up here. And this is going to become populate address list. So copy that, paste it in there, throw some brackets on, update my comments, pop load the addresses from a file into the array. There we go. Now currently it's not doing anything with that, it's just printing stuff out. That's fine. Let me go ahead and put in my prototype. And since that calls open input file, I'm going to leave that underneath and indent it one tab. Now we've got initialize address list and print address list. Now I've given you the sample code from the prior homework in a PDF to initialize and print. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause, and when I come back I will have that code copy and paste it in. So I grabbed the code from the my file. Now it's PDF for you that you can't copy and paste from, so you're going to have to type that in if you want it. And I do that on purpose because I found that if I just give the students code, they copy and paste, they don't learn it. But if I make them type it in, it sticks. Now all this says product list. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to search and replace everywhere for product. And I'm going to change that to address. So I replace all of those. Wow, there was 53 occurrences. Woo! There was a whole bunch of those. So if we have initialize address list, we do the individual fields, and I'm going to come up here to my structure, grab all of these, and paste them in. So my record ID, and then my first name. Actually, oops, I got middle name in there. Let me get first, and then go ahead and get last, and then I'm going to have street. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of these. City, state, and zip. I'm starting to hate this homework already. And you guys getting that feeling that you're not liking this homework? Good. So there's initializing all the fields in the structure, and then we'll skip over the populate, and then we'll come to the print. Uh-oh. So it looks like I need to get my structure again, grab all those fields, come down here to my print code, and some serious copy paste action. So this is record ID, and that would be LD. And then I've got first name, and so that's first, middle, last, street, city, state, zip. Middle, last, street, address, city, state, and zip code. And then I need to line those all up vertically so that they are easy to read. Alright, and then I will get the correct fields that I'm printing out. city, state, and zip code. Oh, that is awesome. Alright, so if I did things right, I should be able to run this, and it should print a whole bunch of blank stuff. So let's go ahead and run that. Do I have any errors? Oh wow, no errors. And hey, it printed all the addresses. That is all the way up to 100, or actually 99. Now remember, it's zero based, so when I print, I'm going to change that from 0 to 99 to 0, or to 1 to 100, so that the user is not confused. There we go, and I get a bunch of zeros. Haha! So that's excellent. Now I'm thinking at this point, you guys would probably like a copy of that to see what it looks like. So I'll tell you what, I will be nice and print that out as a starter template. So where do we go next? Well, we go back to the homework, and it says I have to break apart all the fields and put them into my array of structures. Okay, so we go back to the homework, and that means we've got initialize done, and we've got print. Well, print most of it done. Remember, you can't print blank addresses, so I'll leave that up to you. Our work is now going to be all in populate address list. So we go to populate address list, and we've still got a problem here. We're reading a whole line, and the directions say we got to specify one character at a time. We'll get back to that. So right here, after I have read in a whole line, I want to add address to array. And so I'm going to pass in the address. That's in str buffer. That's what I read in from the file. And I'm going to pass that, also pass in the array, the address list. I'm going to pass in a single, how do I know, where's my index? How do I know which element in the array to put it to? SpaghettiOs. And at that point, I'm going to stop coding, and I'm going to leave you just some general hints or some tips as to how to tackle this. Number one is save reading one character at a time until the very end. So after you get everything working, go back in, switch over the code to have it read one character at a time. Step number 2 that I recommend, save breaking apart the full name into first, middle, and last until the second last thing from the end. So the last thing you should do is get it to read one character at a time. The second last thing you should do is break apart the full name. Now remember, you can also fudge things a little bit. So for example, see we got first, middle, and last name. You can temporarily add in an str full name field, so that when you read in the full name, until you break that up, you can store it and print it from there. And that's a nice temporary way to do things. That might help you a little. So those are the general hints that I want to give you, and I'm going to wish you good luck. And remember, this is going to take a lot of work, and some people actually never finish the assignment. They just take an F on this one and move on. That's how difficult it is. Now, why am I giving you this assignment? To prepare you for business. Whenever I have to think of assignments, I just think about what I ran into in business and what I know other programmers run into. So these are common business tasks, and then I make it easier. This is easier because you're not putting it into a database. All you're doing is printing it out. Often you have to write a program that reads in data from a file or from some source and then saves it into the database. And it has to do all the validation and checking and all good stuff like that. So this homework is specifically designed to get you ready for when you graduate, that you are prepared to operate at a business level. So that's what this homework is about. I'm not doing it to be mean. I'm doing it to prepare you. Remember, this is boot camp, and I got to make it tough on you. If not, I'm actually doing you a disservice. So good luck, and that is the end of the Getting Started video.